Good day, everyone. My name is Rob Thompson, and today we are going to be looking at creating a simple, quick, and easy way to set up the joints in the hand when it comes to rigging. So today we're going to be using this little boy here. I've named him Arnold, and what we're going to do is let's start off by removing his costume here. And this way here, we can just go ahead. We're going to select the body, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a live surface. So just by doing that, we have the body selected. We turn on this magnet right here, and it automatically turns that into a live surface. So you'll notice that we can't select it anymore, but that's because it's a live surface now. So our next step is we're going to go ahead and go in and create some joints here. So we want to make sure that we are in our rigging options here. We go into skeleton, create joints, and then we want to go into the option box. So our next step here is making sure that projected centering is turned on and that you want it to be in the Y, Z, Z positions for the joints. This way here it makes the computer understand what directions you're going to be turning your local rotation axes. Next up, let's go back in here and let's start creating our joints. So I like to go into the front view to start off with, and by doing that I just hit spacebar and I just go ahead, let's create the clavicle, the shoulder, elbow, and let's go ahead and create that wrist. So I'll hit Q and finish off that selection. Let's go ahead, let's go back into our perspective view and now what we have here is we want to make sure that we have that bend in that elbow. It's actually very important to make sure that we have that elbow when it comes to the rig later on. So next up, I'm actually gonna unparent this joint right here. You'll see why in a moment. So let's go ahead and create more joints here. Again, we still have our live surface turned on. And I just go ahead, actually let's go up to the top here. So we got our bone 1, 2, 3, and then up at the tip. We finish that off by pressing Q. Let's press G to continue that operation, so which means that we're going to continue with our joints. We go first knuckle, second knuckle, third, and then the tip of that finger. Press Q again, and G, 1, 2, 3, and then the tip of that finger. Continue on down with this hand. Okay, one more, 1, 2, 3, and the end of that finger. Alright, so we have that part done, but we still have part of the hand that still needs to be created. So what I like to do is I go ahead and I turn on our local rotation axes. So it is under display, it is under transformation display, and then local rotation axes. You can also set up your own local rotation axes button here by holding your control shift and middle mouse button, and it'll pop up in your window up here. So we have our local rotation axes. I use Jam Orientate tool. And by doing that, it just makes things a little bit easier. There's a few more options with this than there is with, say, the Maya rotation axis settings. So Again, we go Y, Z, and then we have here our X, Y, Z, and I just go and hit this button here for Z or Z. And then for this joint in particular, we actually want that to be orientated to the world axis. Okay, so it didn't actually move because it already is orientated to the world, but we just want to make sure just in case. So our next step, before I forget, because this has happened to me a couple times, is we want to go into our modeling tools set here. And if we press W, for instance, you'll see over here, so it's happened to me before where this is in the world orientation, but you want to make sure that you are under the object orientation. So that way there you get a good accurate depiction as to where you're actually placing things and when you're moving the object. So now that we got that sorted out, let's go ahead. We want to make sure that we have our joint selected. We are going to duplicate it 4 times to represent the metatarsals of the hand. So those are the joints that connect to your actual wrist in your hand. So we duplicate it, Control D, and then just place it roughly where it would want to be. So let's duplicate that again. And it is okay for these joints to be touching each other. Oops. Let's just make sure we only have the one selected. There we go. Alright, so that's our 4 metatarsal joints. Okay, so we have this one here. I'm going to bring it just a slightly closer so that we get better deformation. Alright, now let's go ahead and start connecting these joints to the new metatarsal joints. Select and press P. Select again, parent. So we got child, then parent, and press P. Child, parent, and P. Now, before we do much of anything else, I like to name what these are. Okay, so let's start off with the thumb here. So let's open that up. So to open that up all the way, we hit Shift and click that plus button. So this one here is bind joint B and D, J and T, bind joint left, and that would be thumb, and I like to go meta. Alright. And then I go Control C, B, and I just change some of these names here. So that would be 0, 1, and in this case, oop, it is the thumb, my bad, THUMB for thumb 1, and then Control C, let's do this again, thumb 2 in this case, and this one's going to be slightly different. We're going to name that end. The reason being is because when it comes to the creation of these joints and whatnot, the end joints actually are not really that important. Basically, what they are extra, but yet they help in the way of determining where the end of an object is. So, when it comes to, say for instance, your skeleton is over budget, but you still want good deformations, it's always better to delete the end joints than it is anything else. And because you'll have 5 in this case, 5 end joints that you can delete, you can actually get away with quite a bit. So let's go ahead, let's copy this. And I'll just fast forward through all of this so that you guys don't have to. watch it all. Rotational axes here. So go ahead and go select hierarchy, and what you want to do is show your local rotation axes again, so that is under display, and it is transformation display and local rotation axes, or like me, you have a button up here. So again, select hierarchy and local rotation axes. Now if you already have these turned on for local rotation axes, what you're going to have to do is just go ahead, select the one joint, and hit your LRA again. No big deal, it just doesn't recognize, it just thinks that you want to turn off that one LRA. So select all your hierarchies, local rotation axes, select hierarchy, LRA. Okay. So now that we have all of our local rotation axes, you notice that the joint already has it set up so that it is in the roughly the correct order. And that is because we had already told the joints that's what we're going to be using for our orientation. So, what we need to do is make sure that it is in that order. So let's go ahead, select the hierarchy, and then orientate those joints. And just double check here, yeah. So far it's looking like it's just these top joints that we are having to turn around. So orientate joint just right there. So orientate, and you notice there was a couple here that did change. Let's change that, okay. Things are snapping along quite nicely. Alright, now our next step is we want to make sure that in the case of, say, the thumb, it is going to be turning correctly. So first off, what do we do to test it? So we got our joint there selected, this one and this one. Okay, we go ahead, press E, and start rotating. You know, that isn't absolutely horrible. That is actually pretty decent. But we can make it just that little bit better. If you notice here on the thumb, it is turned slightly more. So let's fix that. So we have everything selected here. Next up, and you might have to do this for yours, but you probably have this little button up here that has a little tiny bit of a bump. So we click that. You want to click this button right here. It has a square with a blue box and an arrow. That is our the component selection. Okay, and then we make sure that we have our question mark up here turned on. And then you right click and you want to make sure that local rotation axis is check marked. So that allows us to go in and select just our rotational axes. So I like to press Q to get rid of the rotation there, just so that we can see exactly what we're doing. We do not have to do the end of the finger, and that is because, again, it's not really used for much. So next up, we actually go ahead and we start turning that thumb so that it is slightly more accurate. So we go ahead, we turn that just like so. I'm going to turn it about right there, and if you see where that is, that will actually show you. Alright, now we have a final step. You don't want to move anything or touch anything. If you do, it's just a matter of selecting those rotational axes. Yet again, we're going to use a simple script. So we go over here, or you could just type it in right here at the bottom. But I like to use this. You pop up your MEL script. And this is the script we're going to use. Joint space minus E space minus ZSO. It is not a 0, it is a minus ZSO. So you highlight that, and then you hit this to play button right here. And if you notice on screen, it had orientated all those joints correctly. So what it's doing is it's zeroing out the location of those joints so that you don't have any issues going forward. All right, so I did notice that on this index finger, it is still slightly not correct. It's not bad. You know what? Let's test out to see how it is before we muck about. So again, we go back over here. We're in our regular editor here. Go ahead and start selecting these joints and see what we get here. So you got a bit of a curl there, and it's not bad. You want to make sure that it's in the actual angle that the finger is in. We're going to fix it just a little bit. So again, we have everything selected. We go into our component mode, make sure the question mark is turned on, and let's start selecting these local rotation axes. So select one, shift, select the next, and next. Okay, and then you go E, and let's go ahead and rotate these so that they are a little bit more accurate. So go like so. That's not bad, just like that. And then again, we go back into our script editor, joint -E ZSO, hit the double play. There we go, it corrects it, it zeroes it all out for us. And that, folks, is pretty much what you need to do for the hand. Next up is let's go ahead and start connecting it to the wrist. So again, go back all the way up here, go back into our regular editor, and start parenting. Let's go. Oops. And final. Okay, hit P. Alright, now what we can do is to test everything out, make sure that it's all working correctly. We select that, select our hierarchy, and start rotating. Look at that. Everything is rotating quite nicely. That thumb, when you do go ahead and animate, it will actually rotate better than that. It's just a matter of selecting the joints over here, but you're going to have proper controls going for that. So if you see, yes, we are rotating quite nicely. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is our simple, quick, and easy creation of the joints in the hand. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.